So again, we're going to do a different word problem or two a day. And so the one, because we're a short day, we're just going to do coin and value. And the coin and value you've actually had a little bit of experience with. Today's date is the 25th. The coin and value problems are like the ones you saw in homework about tickets to some sort of play, where you have two different groups of people play two different prices. You know how many total tickets were sold and how much total money was made. And then your job was to figure out how many of each of the tickets were sold. And there's a problem like that on the quiz as well. So we're going to just kind of go back, and I'm going to share with you probably a harder question than what you're actually going to see on the worksheet, because I'm going to give you a problem that has not two unknowns, but three. And how do you handle that? Yeah, woo! So let's talk a little bit about what do we need to come up with. So we mentioned this the other day. We're going to solve a system because we have two unknowns. Yes, it is possible to solve these using only one variable, but it actually is a lot faster when you use two variables. So the system we need to create two equations. Can you remember what one equation is going to be regarding in our system? So think about it. You have, think about that ticket problem that you've seen on homework, and that showed another similar one showed up on the test. We had to write two equations. What's one type of equation you had to write to solve that particular question? Okay. What are the two key pieces of information that you're given in a problem about tickets? Their worth, so value, and how many. So we have a quantity and we have value. And that's where this idea of coin and value comes from. So one equation we're going to write is we're going to write an equation that deals with quantity. How many? The second one is how much, or let's do it this way. We'll do total value. And how much. And you think about, well, those two mean the same thing, right? But if you ever go to a store, you don't say, how many does that purse cost? If they look at you like, what do you mean, how many? How much does it cost? Okay, so the word much is a number word. So this one is going to be dealing with the value, the dollar sign. And this one, the how many, is just going to be dealing with not hashtag, but just amount, numbers, okay? All right, let's see, what else do we need to know? So if I want to know the value, the total value I have of something, I need to know the total value of each of the pieces, right? So I'm going to have to figure out the total value of one. Oh, no, let's just do it. Total value, let's do it this way. Let's say total value of A plus total value of B is going to equal grand total. Oh, not grade, grand. And how do I figure out what the total of that A is? It just works the same way as this example. I went to a store and I bought 3 tops and they were $15 each on sale. How much was I going to spend before paying sales tax? How much was I going to pay at the store? Or how much was I spending on those 3 shirts? So 3 shirts, $15 each. How much is that? How much? $45. How did you get that? Okay, so if I have the number of items, the number of that item, so it's one at a time, and I multiply it by the cost of one item, that equals the total cost. And it's that notion that we're going to use. Now, because I have 2 unknowns, because I'm involving two ideas about that unknown, how many and how much, and I want to figure out a total, that's a lot of stuff to keep track of. So we're going to use a chart. Remember we used a chart back in the liquid mixture problems and the dry mixture problems when we were blending coffees? We're going to use a chart to help us out. So we're going to use a chart to organize our data. Okay? So we're going to use a chart to organize our data. Now, the question I'm going to give you goes beyond what you've seen. So this is harder than what you're going to be working on, okay? So unfortunately, we do need to write it down. Hopefully I'll write it correctly this time. So David has some nickels, dimes, and quarters worth $4.50. He has 3 times as many nickels than dimes, and for more quarters than dimes. How many of each coin does he have? Okay, now, one thing that I've been noticing when you guys are working on word problems in particular, a lot of times you start on the far right side of your paper. Okay, so this is your paper, you're working over here. And then you realize I don't have any more room over here, so then you start working here and over here. Okay, remember we're supposed to be linear and logical, so when you're working, you start here, and you work your way that way, okay? Just kind of keep that in mind, because I keep seeing, and then you get all confused when your work is everywhere, and then I get confused trying to find all your work because it's in weird places that my brain doesn't think to look for. Okay, so let's do a chart. So we have nickels, dimes, and by the way, I do have one of my big pet peeves is spelling nickels wrong. You can't spell nickels like you would pickles. Okay, I know they rhyme, but they're not spelled the same way. Pickles is L-E, nickels is E-L. Okay, just saying. That one gets under my skin. That and call David a girl. She had, I get that for an answer all the time. How can David be a she? Though, my brother's name is David, and we used to tease him when we were younger, and we used to call him Davida. Made his name kind of feminine. Yeah. It's okay. He used to beat me up, so it all... That's what brothers and sisters do. All right, so we need to know 2 pieces of information about our coins. How many? So we can say amount. And then we're going to write value, and this is crucial, of 1. And then we're going to get a total. So they did not give me any information. No numbers of how many nickels or how many dimes or how many quarters. So I'm going to use variables. N for nickels, D for dimes, Q for quarters. Now, how much is a nickel worth? 5 cents. You got to make sure that you write it as cents. Okay? How much is a dime worth? 10 cents. So we 0.10. How much is a quarter worth? 25 cents. So 0.25. So how much are the total of my nickels worth? Well, we just take how many nickels I have times how much 1 nickel is worth, multiply them, and that equals the total. Kind of like when we were doing rate times time equals distance, the same idea happened in our chart. So the number, or the value, total value of the nickels is 0.05 N. For the dimes, I'm going to drop off that 0, and I get 0.1 D when I multiply. And for my quarters, I get 0.25 Q. So what's interesting is I know how much my nickels are worth, how much my dimes are worth, and how much my quarters are worth. And what did they tell me in the problem about how much they're all worth together? They said $4.50. So I can write an equation that deals with money, taking the last column, 0.05n, and adding them up, and setting them equal to how much they're all supposed to be. Fantabulous, except for, I've got 3 unknowns. And that's not going to work for me. So that means I better read some more, and there's probably something involved in the problem that's going to help me. So then I read the second sentence. He has 3 times as many nickels than dimes. Okay, so I have to think about what that says. Does he have more nickels, or does he have more dimes? More nickels. So if I want to balance, so my nickels are like this. If I want to balance the nickels and dimes, what do I have to do to the dimes to make it match the number of nickels? What does it tell me? We have to multiply it by 3. So the number of nickels, which I have more of, in order to balance with the dimes, I have to multiply the dimes by 3. Okay? All right, let's read the next part. It says 4 more quarters than dimes. All right, so again, what do I have more of according to that phrase? I have more quarters. So right now I've got quarters are higher than my dimes. If I want the dimes and quarters, the amount of them to be the same, what am I going to do to make that balance? I have to add 4 to the dimes to get it as the same number of quarters. So quarters is equal to the dimes plus 4. So then I look and I go, oh, wait a second. If I replace nickels with what it equals, which was 3 dimes, and I have dimes, so 0.1 times D, and I replace the number of quarters with what we figured out that was D plus 4. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, what have I just done? Well, I had one already, but what's beautiful about this new equation? There's only one variable. Can we solve an equation with one variable? Absolutely. Positively. All right, so now we have this decimal thing to contend with. I don't want to. So what could I do to get rid of the decimals? Multiply by, what is it? 100. Remember, there's 100 cents in a dollar. So I'm going to multiply all of these by 100. So all I'm going to end up doing is moving the decimal point twice to the right. So this becomes 5 times 3D. The next, when I move 0.1, the decimal over twice, it gives me 10D. And move the decimal point over twice, it gives me 25 times the quantity D plus 4 equals 450. So look what I actually did. I took this problem from being written in terms of dollars with the decimals to being written in terms of a whole bucket full of change. I've got 450 cents. I've got 25 cents. I've got 10 cents. I've got 5 cents. So that's what I did here, is I changed it from being dollars and parts of dollars to being pennies. 5 pennies, 10 pennies, 25 pennies, 450 pennies. Okay? Good thing we didn't have to solve for pennies as well. So now I'm just going to start solving the problem. Now I'm going to bring this up here, and I multiply. 5 times 3D is 15D, and then I have a 10D, and then I have 25 times D is 25D. I have 25 plus 4 is 100, and then that equals the 450. So now I'm going to add up. What's 15D plus 10D? 15 plus 10 is 25D. And what's 25 plus 25? 50. So I get 50D plus 100 equals 450. So then I subtract 100 from both sides. and I get 50D equals 350. Divide both sides by 50, zeros go away, and I get D equals 7. So what that tells me is that I have 7 dimes. Okay, but that's not all, right? I got to figure out how many of the other kinds. So I'm going to take this answer and substitute it in for the answer for the number of nickels. The number of nickels is going to be 3 times the number of dimes. So 3 times 7 is 21. So then I have 21 nickels, not pickles. And then I'm going to take that value for dimes and I'm going to substitute it in for quarters. And so that's going to give me 7 plus 4, or 11. And then we would say, and 11 quarters. Now, I would prefer that you would write this as a complete sentence. So we could say, David has 7 dimes, 21 nickels, and 11 quarters. Okay?